Welcome to Mariposa Woolen Mill's Needle Felting Basics and Kit Instruction. For those of you new to felting and deciding to try a new craft, let me give you a small intro. Basically, felting is causing wool fibers to intermingle and knot together. This can be accomplished in a couple ways. Wet felting is one way, hot water, little soap, and a lot of friction. The other way is needle felting, with which I will demonstrate later on in the video. Felting needles have barbs and they grab onto other fibers, to the wool fibers, as it's poked into the wool, causing this intermingling or felting. It always is best to use a surface such as a foam or a rice pad because the needles are very sharp. This kit provides all needed supplies to start this new fun, easy hobby. Let's get started.
Okay, well, let's get started. As we have our basic mat, I'll just give you a few little tips on how to apply the wool. So I'm just going to basically apply the colors that I want using the palette of colors that we have provided. And what I like to do is just lay out the colors that I like and then get a base attachment of the wool to the mat. There's going to be more refining of the colors later, but it just gives us a basic application of color. So if you want the wool to lay in a linear pattern, you direct it in that way. If you want the wool to be more blended and more wispy, you can turn your needle and just push the wool in the direction that you want it to lie down. So I'm going to do this to make the grass. This is basically what we'll do just to give us a basic application of color. Next, as we approach the petals, I want to have them in a more raised fashion. So what I do is fold it, and then I'm going to felt the shape of the petal. And as you see me going across each petal, you know that I'm doing it very gently, because I only want the pink to felt into the pink and not necessarily into the mat, because if we poke it down into the mat, then it's going to be more flat. So to keep it in the raised fashion, would just poke into the pink, and you'll see me do this through all of the petals and even into the centers, where there is, so yeah, I see how I'm folding it, and then I use the very fuzzy edges and I poke it down to the center where I've planned the center of the flower. And then I'll go around the edges, just giving some attention there to indicate the shape. And you'll see that I'll do that also with the centers, where I roll it into a ball and I use the wispy edges, and I poke that down in, and just gently going across the whole area of the center of the flower or the petal, because I want to maintain that raised effect. Can give some indication to the petal, just a variety of shape to the petal itself. So you can felt more in the center of it, a line to show the shape of the crease on a petal. As you see, if I want a linear application of the wool, I will roll it in my fingers and create a little tube, and then give a little tension as I apply it, poking down one end and giving it tension to keep my line straight. So don't forget, you can change the direction of your needle. You don't have to poke directly down. You can poke from the sides. But giving attention to every part of the wool will create felting. So if you leave it unpoked, it will only be roving. It will not be felt. So you do need to give attention to every part for it to be considered felt. So creating the bee, we'll do it just like we did the petals and the centers. I rolled the roving, and then I'm just going to attach it around the outside and finding the shape, indicating the shape of the bee. And then I'm going to give some attention across all of the yellow so that it felts into itself. Now around the bottom, I will felt it into the mat because we do want to anchor it down. And application of the black is the same, so you'll see I just twist it and give a little linear, and then I put some attention, and then I want the black to be felted down into the yellow, so I'm going to felt there too, but I'm going to do it all very gently because I don't want to create a deep line. I want it all to be felted the same, with the same amount of attention, as I don't want the stripes to be deeper than the yellow. And it is fine if you wanted to have him a little more fluffy, but do poke into all of it. Give it the same amount of attention. So to create little thin areas, as I will for the antenna and the legs, just use very little fleece, just very tiny, poking it down into the mat because that's where we want it to be attached. Just very tiny, and I twist the ends just so it has that point. And I do that the same for the legs. So the application of the clouds is just as we did before when we first applied the green, just giving it attention, laying out it on the background, and then I'll just poke it down gently into the mat. If you want to make the clouds more puffy, add more wool, and just like you applied the wool for the bee, if you want your clouds to be fluffy, just give that same kind of attention where you poke white into the white, not all the way down into the mat if you wanted to have a raised effect. Application of the yarn is very simple, just giving it an anchor, and then you want the fibers of the yarn to go into the mat, so you just apply it. I guess you could glue it if you wanted, but this is sufficient if you're going to put it behind a frame or behind glass, I mean. So just giving it some attention to poke down those fibers into the mat, and that's simply it.
Thanks for watching Mariposa Woolen Mill Felting Basics Kit Instruction video. So continue felting, and to replenish your felting needs, come visit us at the farm market or online at the link on your screen. Stay tuned for more felting fun.